Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is your favorite podcast airing on the Sunday every Sunday. I'm your host, Dom, DJ, and
I'm your host, Madness, and this is the Sunday Ball Podcast.
let's get
And
into it.
Today we're going to start with, as you can tell, might be a bit of a college day. The Odell jersey, it
Uh,
kind of throws us for
just
a
no,
loop. We're
no.
going to be talking a little bit about everything, just doing a little bit of a free for all. But we do want to start with our Heisman favorites, who we think is going to actually end up winning, and then a couple dark horses, what we
Yeah.
feel like is going to be kind of a little bit of an outlook in the season just based on what we're talking about in Heisman odds. And I could start off if you want. I kind of mentioned this on
Yeah.
the last one.
Wonder who
Who
he's
I
gonna. I wonder
who
who's Jake's guy. Let's
I
think about
think is
that
going
one.
to win, and with no doubt in my mind, he's the best quarterback in college football. Uh, before he's even before even his second year starting, he is the best
Yeah.
quarterback in college football. CJ Carr.
He's actually.
Notre Dame's primed for a 12-0 season. I don't think Miami's going to beat them. I don't think anyone's going to get in their way. I think they got to play SMU this year. I think that's one of their tougher games. I think they're going to go 12-0, mollywop everyone. And that Miami game might be a little tough, but they'll get through
Cupcake
it.
schedule. Ugh.
Yeah, give them a
Cupcake.
cupcake schedule, and then just wait till they win the Natty.
It's a
it's going to be a
cupcake
good year.
schedule. I'm not.
And what I
I
saw
like.
from CJ Carr
Yeah.
last year, his first year starting as a sophomore at a high end school at like Notre Dame, and week one against Miami, he lost by 3 points to the national champion runner up. That was one of his losses. He lost by 1 point to another playoff team in Texas A&M. Their Notre Dame last year was a very good team, and it was very unfortunate to not see them in the playoff because there was some teams that should not have been in there. The the fact that they're not in conference does play a factor, and I feel like this might limit his odds. But right now, he's the current favorite on most books. At least he's
Coming
either
in at about
outright
plus seven
one
fifty, plus eight. Yeah.
or he's number two. And what we saw from him last season, he looked great. Granted, Jeremiah Love did help a little bit with him developing, just because he was didn't have to be so relied on in his sophomore season. But I really like the additions they made at wide receiver in the transfer portal this year. They got pretty much most of their team is returning on the defensive side of the ball, so the defense is going to help them out a lot. And with losing Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love, it is a little bit difficult. The run game is going to need some adjustments, but I think Anais Williams is their current starter. Let me
Yeah.
check their depth chart right now. Um, but no, he's a stud. He got a couple carries last season. He was great for them when he did touch the ball. I'm very excited for Notre Dame. I really do expect a 12-0 season from them. At least 11-1, maybe that Miami game is going to be a little tough, but they still got Faison, who I love Jordan Faison.
Yeah, I do like Jordan
Um,
Cousins.
yeah, they got a few other guys. Great House is still there. Cam Williams was great. Redshirt sophomore. And then I think Quincy Porter was the guy they got in the transfer portal. He's expected to be their starting X, I believe, this year.
Yeah,
Whatever.
I'm high on Notre Dame, but I do wonder if they don't win that Miami game, because it's by far their toughest game on their schedule. The second toughest is either BYU or SMU. It's probably BYU, depending on how high on Retzlaff you are. But if they don't win that Miami game, and let's say it's not close, they're gonna have an uphill battle
Retzloff's
to make the playoff.
he's not at BYU anymore.
Oh, he transferred.
He transferred to
Who's
Tulane last
starting
year.
BYU this season? Yeah, you're right.
Bear. Bear's still starting.
Number 47. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the name. But I don't know. If you watched
No, but they
it was
got
the BYU versus which game determined it
Utah.
in their conference champ. No, it wasn't
Oh,
Utah. Let me
TT,
give it a minute.
TTU,
Yes,
Texas
Texas
Tech.
Tech. But he didn't impress me in that game, and he had an okay season up and down. I know he was a true freshman, and especially with a last-second throw-in like him because of the whole. You remember the whole scandal, basically why Retzlaff had to transfer to Tulane in the first place. But he actually played well under the circumstances, and I think BYU is going to be just as strong as last year, around about 20-ish team. And if they if that's their second toughest, I'm not here to just shit on Notre Dame. I think they're a strong team, but I do make the point that their schedule this year does make it an uphill battle. Hell, if they beat Miami, they're a shoo-in. Like, I think they have a great chance of going 12-0 this season. I don't know what other team I could say has an excellent chance at 12-0. I feel like very confident that they're going to go 11-1, 12-0 around that range, but does 11-1 get them in the playoffs, or is it a similar scenario to this year? Where yes, they
The
had the two games to start off the season that were extremely difficult this year against top 10 opponents. But without those games, if their best win on the resume is an SMU team, a BYU team, it is going to be an uphill battle. And I do think that's going to have something to say about Carr's Heisman ballot. I do think the committee and just the public in general values quality of schedule. There's a reason why Genti didn't win it, despite how amazing. Yes, the schedule was a little harder than a Mountain West schedule,
That was also horrible.
but
That was also one of the worst like outright wins that I've seen. I do not think Travis Hunter should have won over Genty. I think Genty's running back season was one of the best running back seasons I've ever seen. Granted, he was in a worse conference, but it's not like the Big 12 was that good, and it's not like Travis Hunter really contributed to wins as much as Genty did. Genty literally carried his team to I think they were 12-0 and they made the play or
in the
13 and
playoff.
0 and they made the playoffs. Like without Genty, that team was not a team. We saw what happened last year with Boise State. They
Mhm.
didn't I
No,
don't even think they were like making any noise in the Mountain West last year.
no, I believe they won 7 games.
They started at like 24 or something like that last year after
Yeah, they
being
started at 25 just for the hell of it because of the playoff
no,
berth.
no.
They lost.
They went 12-1. They lost to Oregon by 3 points
Yep.
last year. Like
hmm
when Genty was on the team.
That was game 2, I believe, and that was in the beginning of the season. They almost
Genty
beat
went.
Oregon.
I think Genty went. He went for over 200 in like 2 or 3 tugs, something like
Look,
that,
Genti would
against
have got
one
my
of the best
ballot.
teams.
I understand why Travis Hunter won it in general
I
because
don't.
of it's
I
remarkable what he does, but that means Jabril Peppers should have won it 10 years ago. If you're going to kind of base it on a player that can go two ways. And yes, Hunter made a little bit more of an offensive impact than Peppers did, but Peppers might have made a better impact on defense than Hunter did
yeah
on defense. So, I think they kind of equal each other out. And yes, it was a weak year in general for it. We've talked about if Melvin Gordon didn't win it in his 2014 campaign, having similar stats to Genti in a much tougher conference. I understand why they didn't give it to Genti,
yeah.
but it still is frustrating. I do agree with that.
I can understand it, but it's not like he did this at like a high end conference. It's not like he was playing really good teams. Like the Big 12 was decent that year, but it wasn't a good conference, and they were not winning games. Like the
Yep.
thing is, Genty's one loss that season was to I think at that point it was like number what did Oregon finish? One? They finished
Yeah, but
first in the country.
I believe when they played, it was number two. They were number 2 rank.
Yeah, and
They were
then
high.
I think Oregon went 13-0. They beat Penn State in
They
the
cleared
Big Ten
out.
championship. They had a tight game with Ohio State at home, and that was their only really competitive nature. And I think we're seeing that a lot with NIL too. Is like this is kind of like completely off topic. I know we're
No,
starting with Heisman,
this,
but now I'm animated. Now I'm talking about
this is a college football talk. That's all it is.
college football. I think we're seeing this a lot where the high end teams in the conferences are really taking over, and we see it in the Big 12 a lot more than most other conferences. Like Indiana was able to do what they did because of how good they were in the transfer portal, how intelligent they were. They were instead of taking a risk on like a freshman or a sophomore, they're taking
Yeah.
guys that are in their fourth, fifth years, bringing them on the roster and making them valuable members of a
Yep.
team. There's a big difference between someone who is 23,
Yeah.
like 22, 23, 24, compared to like 18 and 19. I mean,
Signetti values experience. He values older guys that have done it at the similar level. And yes, maybe it's a step up to go from Cal to Indiana, especially Indiana in that playoff context. It is a step up. Cal has been subpar for years, ever since the Jared Goff days. But
are you talking about
it is.
Signetti or Mendoza?
I'm kind of both. I mean that he valued Mendoza's starting ability at Cal, even though Cal was a subpar team in the ACC or the Pac-12. It's a little hairy, but essentially a subpar team, but it's still a Power Five team, Power Four team. And he took the quarterback and he won a chip with him. But there's multiple players. It's not just Mendoza that he's done that with.
Yeah, no,
And
and
that's what I
like,
mean. He
yeah,
just that's a
and just how
signifier.
much experience that team did have was really that really like was the determining factor between them and a lot of other teams.
Yeah.
Like we saw what they did to Oregon. Oregon gets some of the best recruits in the country. Same thing with Miami. Same thing with pretty much any other team they played in the Big Ten.
Think about the Big 12 with what they did with Texas Tech this year. Texas Tech only became a contender because of the money that was pumped into that team to
Yeah,
bring in vets that can take care of business. And I mean, that I've never seen anything quite like that, where it was literally just they had a humongous bag like Santa and just were able to hand out money to players. And it makes sense why they were a playoff team this year. Not just a playoff team, but they finished the regular season at 4, I believe.
yeah. They finished fourth. They might have finished third.
Because of the difference in the playoff seeding, because of the weird
Yeah,
power 4 to 5. Yeah, I see what you.
no,
But
no. They
still,
fi-
I think
they finished fourth because Oregon was fifth overall and they played
they
Oregon. Then
did they seed at 4?
yeah, they seeded at four because they played Oregon, who was five. Ole Miss was six, who played um, Georgia. Two was Ohio State, who played. Ohio State ended up playing Miami in that round, and then Indiana played Alabama.
Indiana first.
Yeah, and Indiana buried Alabama.
No,
It wasn't even a game, and that was like kind of seeing it now. And a lot of what I just mentioned was a lot of SEC bias, but we don't have to talk about that. And
there
Big
still
Ten
is,
bias,
as
but there is so much.
whether we want to admit to it, whether we want to say it is true and SEC is the best conference, or whether we want to ignore it. It still exists. It exists in the polls. It exists in the college football rankings. It exists.
Ha-
SEC bias. Even the people that make the college football bylaws believe in an SEC bias, and I don't agree with that. Frankly, I think the Big Ten is the best conference in college football, at least top heavy wise. To have teams like Oregon and Ohio State, and Indiana, all contenders this year. Three of my favorite contenders for the chip this year, to be honest. And I'll talk about Oregon in a little bit. They have my favorite pick, or at least right there with Mensa. I like Moore and Mensa. They're probably my two number one picks for Heisman this year. I just love the context around them. I love Mensa's weapons at Miami is maybe the best in all of college football, at least returner wise. To bring in not just to have Malachi Tony, but to have Cooper Barkate, who was in his number one option at Duke, and to have him transfer, he might finish with a better season than Malachi Tony does. We talked about this a little while ago. I'm not sure if it was on the pod or privately, but we're both very high on Cooper Barkate as the number one for Miami this season, especially if Tony is getting double coverage because of how insane of a player Tony is. I mean, he really is special, but he might take a step back because of teams knowing about him now. He was kind of their hidden little secret, and he played
I
a huge role in getting them all the way to the conference. I mean, the championship.
I just don't think so. Like the thing is with Tony, it's not like he's an X. It's not like you could really like double cover him. He's going to line up all over the field and he's going to get touches no matter what, and he's going to do a lot with those
True.
touches. Maybe Mensa's more of a guy who just sits in the pocket and is able to go through reads and make decisions,
Yeah.
but still he's going to be a huge check down drag guy that's going to get
I
open, get
reference him in
touches.
more of a receiving point. I think he's going to get an insane amount of work no matter what. He's going to be
Yeah,
touching the ball,
no.
whether it's on end arounds or designed runs. I could see him playing a Z back role where you have him. You're fine with a sweep to Tony. He's ridiculously quick and fast, and he's super. I would feel great about him getting the ball, especially because I don't love the Miami running back room. It's not like they're a running back. They're not a run first team anyway, but I do think it's going to have to surround around Mensa this year.
Yeah, I don't. I think the biggest thing with Miami from what we saw last year was they used a lot of like bubbles and lock screens as extensions of their run game, and it was very effective, especially
Yeah.
with Carson Beck, who is not a gunslinger. Menz is a much better thrower of the football than Carson Beck ever
Yes.
was in college. And what we kind of saw from that was we might see a completely different Miami setup this year, just because I
Hmm.
think Menza opens up a lot more doors for players to make plays down the field rather than focusing on really that extension of the run game. So I think we're going to see a lot more of down the field play from Miami, which might be good, might be bad, but I'm not. I do like Miami's odds this year. I do think they're going to win the ACC because I just don't think anyone in the ACC is
Dude,
really
they
that
have
good this
minus
year.
odds right now. They have, I
Yeah,
think the second favorite is SMU at plus 700, I believe.
yeah, and
Like,
SMU's a good team. I can see them going 10-2 this
they have
year.
negative odds. They have over 50% chance to win the ACC. That's nuts.
Yeah, so I think
And
we get
I
kind
don't even disagree with it. I don't think that's
no,
ridiculous.
I think it's I'm gonna look up favorites for each one
All conference favorites, yeah.
and just kind of walk
You know,
through
I'm
that.
hating on Mark Fletcher. Mark Fletcher is still a very capable back. I think, if anything, he might. That offense is scary
I
good.
think
Like,
he's gonna take a step.
they might genuinely have the best unit. And yeah, to lose Moaga, who was one of the best tackles in football, he blocked for Beck really well. I mean, he Beck is not the most mobile quarterback. He doesn't have the best vision, whether it's blind side or just head on. He's kind of a little special if you've ever seen Beck. So I do think it's going to be interesting to have a quarterback that's more mobile and maybe take more of the responsibility than just being an O line type of thing. But Miami always has very solid linemen. I'm not gonna hate on the next up and coming class because Cristobal does focus on his offensive line. That's never really been a problem of his. He always does have
Yeah,
a solid, not even just offensive line, but defensive line. And we talked about the transfers that they've gotten on the D line. That D line should be not. I'm gonna say just as good as last year because that was one of the best D line groups I've seen in a while. But
all
they
right,
should be very, very quality.
all right. I have to run to the bathroom quick. If you want to keep talking, I could give you.
I'll
So, and
I'll I'll do my
we'll
my
shift.
rundown.
Yeah,
What do we
you can
think?
just talk through your Heisman. I just really have to go to the bathroom. Sorry, guys.
Do what you gotta do. Okay, so Madness is on a little bit of a break. So okay, well, hi everyone. Yeah, so I'm gonna be talking about my two favorites for the Heisman anyway, and those guys that I think have a definite say. And we'll talk about our dark horses in a little bit, obviously. But my one-two punch and my betting favorites, if I was making a list, would be Dante Moore from Oregon, a guy who was a finalist this year, and I'm pretty confident in being the number one quarterback taken in the draft come next April. He is very similar to a Jaden Daniels, but I think he has a little more pure arm talent, especially within 30, 40 yards. He can make any throw on the field. And I do think Oregon is going to come out and be a contender where they're due. They seriously are due. It's a shame that they've lost so there's ever since and truly the Marcus Mariota days, they've been a perennial contender. Oregon really hasn't had a dumpster fire since that. And to bring in, they have the best backup in all of college football at quarterback, which is funny. But I don't think Raiola is going to really touch the field unless it is in third quarter and fourth quarter situations where they're blowing out teams. I think that Moore should be the franchise there. I do think they are my favorite to win the whole thing. I'd pick Oregon if we were making our playoff bracket. And maybe one of these weeks we'll make a full bracket for you guys. I think that would be a fun preseason type of thing where odds are it really doesn't happen the way you think it's going to happen. But based on what we know, based on what we've seen from last year, year before, Moore is extremely capable, and I love him, especially at his odds. At I think he's at plus 1,300 right now to win the Heisman. I also think that we talked about it a little bit, but Darian Mensah. He was a very, very good quarterback in the ACC last year. He might have been the best quarterback in the ACC, genuinely. Talking about a Duke team that was the ACC champion. I know they went 7-5 during the regular season, but they still won the whole thing, and that's very impressive. And to join a Miami team who Beck was capable, yes, but Mensa is just a better thrower of the ball, a better pure quarterback, but also has better legs than Beck does. And to join an absolutely stacked offense where we talked about Tony and have Mark Fletcher in the backfield, they we talked about Burkhead three genuinely very elite, especially when it comes to college football types of weapons to have on your offense. He is just as much of a favorite as everybody else. And I do think if they are able to beat Notre Dame and clear out the ACC, it should be his award to win. We'll talk a little bit about sleepers. I'm very high on Jeremiah Smith. Obviously, he is the best player, hands down, in college football. I think he has a great chance to be if the quarterback class isn't what we think it is this year, and there isn't the standouts that we truly think there's going to be, because it could be a repeat of the May, Daniels, and Williams draft where we do see three quarterbacks. I could see, depending on how high you are on a lot of these guys, it could be Carr, Mensa, Moore. I'm very high still on DJ Lagway. I think Baylor should be
Did,
very scary this year.
didn't say
People are
anything
high on
about Arch
Sayans.
either.
We haven't even mentioned Arch, and I think Arch's odds are a little inflated, but he's the second odds-on favorite right now. And Texas is going to be a playoff team this year. They're going to come back firing. Manning has showed his ability to be who everyone has thought he was going to be. He's still an elite NFL prospect because of the physicals, because of hell, the namesake matters. It does. People love a Manning. We're talking the third generation of elite quarterbacks, of first round quarterbacks, and not just first round, but high first round quarterbacks. And he could just continue the lineage. Texas is, of course, an insanely talented roster. We know that. They have one of the best defenses in college football that should be able to carry Texas into a winning context, even in such a tight conference as the SEC. They have one of the best offensive lines in college football, and their skill room, while they are restacking, is still very solid. So I'm not as high on Manning as I am as Mensa or Moore for Heisman. I even would pick Carr over him. I'm high on Carr as well. I'm not the Notre Dame guy on the pod. That's Jake, so I'll let him talk more about Carr, obviously. I'm not going to steal the spotlight. But that's how I feel about my two picks, at least for Heisman this upcoming season.
Yeah, so Carr's gonna be my number one, just
Yeah.
standalone number one. Yeah, like I did talk about him a bit, and just how like I'm talking more about Notre Dame's schedule and stuff like that. But there are some things I have heard in the preseason, off season, whatever you want to call it. When he was at the Manning camp, which is where most of the best college quarterbacks go, he was the guy leading the drills. He was the guy demonstrating, making all the throws. He impressed everyone the most there.
So
So
was saying. So is saying. And
last
not
year,
the biggest Julian saying guy, yeah, but
yeah,
I still think he has a great say as well at Heisman. I would. I
I
think that offense revolves around Smith personally. I think that's really. I brought it up when you were gone, but I think he's the best player in college football. I think that he might have a say to be the first guy since Smith to be the first number one pick in about 30 years. I could see it. So
yeah,
definitely
no,
things
Jeremiah
need to
Smith.
fall his way, but
We need a bad quarterback year. We don't. If we have a quarterback year like we did last year, I think Jeremiah Smith is in line, or even 2 years ago. If we have similar quarterback play throughout, I think Smith is in line for a Heisman. Just because I think he is the best skill position player there. Kadarius Tony, not Kadarius, sorry, Malachi Tony does make a say as well, especially Miami going in 12-0. Menza's having a decent season, but nothing that impresses, and
yeah.
Tony's going for what have you, like 400 rushing yards, 1,400 receiving yards, and maybe like 12 tucks, something along those lines. I really think he would be the factor in that offense, and I really don't think I really don't think Tony's gonna take a step back. I think if anything, he's going to really flourish this year with a better quarterback, and that's able to stretch the field a lot more than Carson Beck was. So he's going to be one of my dark horses, along with John Mateer, who has very good odds right now. But what we
Yeah.
saw out of John Mateer before his hand injury last season, when he came back against Texas, and like that was one of his first games back, and you could just tell like his throwing motion felt weird. His hand was not fully recovered. He didn't look like he was ready to play football. If he had a healthy offseason, really just delivering the ball, he is one of the few quarterbacks that's a true like dual threat in both regards. He's a great thrower of the football. He is a great runner of the football. He's a bigger body guy. It kind of reminds me of Jalen Hurts out of
Through
college.
8 games, he was my favorite for last season. He was my pick through half the season. Materia is
Yeah.
special. And that
Mateer
Oklahoma
especially as
offense
well.
revolves around him. That is for sure.
If Oklahoma makes a deep run in the SEC, if they go even 10-2, he plays all 12 games and he's making it, and he clears everyone else like just rushing and throwing upside. I really don't think it's going to be hard to not give him the award. The thing is he's more of a dark horse for me just because I think Carr's going to have an outstanding season. We saw what they did last year when they did go 0-2 to start the season. They left him in every game, and they were just putting up points about against anyone who would let them, which was pretty much every other team. I don't think pretty much every game they scored over 30, I think, except for Miami.
That Oklahoma offense was extremely powerful last year, and they should come back and be just about the same type of team. And I don't think that injury is going to carry into this season. I'd hope that he got the treatment and the rest that he needed. It seemed like last season it was more of a panic where we have to win no matter what, and they were throwing him back out there, and you could just tell the difference. It was visible.
Yeah, he didn't look ready.
Just didn't look ready, and it was probably better to have him out there than not. It's not like NFL where you have this guy on a $250 million contract and you're protecting him for next season. It's college football, and despite the NIL rush, the NIL fluctuations that have came, it still is college football. You're still gonna play guys until they can't play, and even when they can't play, you're probably gonna have them playing.
Yeah.
Still college football.
Um, So yeah, we're still going to be talking about college football, but I kind of want to go instead of just individual player route. I kind of want to talk about like who we do think is going to win each of the conferences and kind of
Interesting.
secure their playoff spot out of the Power Four teams.
hmm Before you get into that, I do want to talk about my dark horse, a guy that I will be throwing on, a guy that I'm very confident in, based on not just this last season, but how he should be able to build off from a 1650-yard season last season. He was the Missouri offense last season. Ahmad Hardy is the best running back in college football. I don't even think it's that close. I really like Ahmad Hardy. He's ridiculously powerful. He reminds me of Leonard Fournette, honestly. He's at about plus 500. He's trading at about 12,000 right now. I don't even think I know he's the best running back in college football. And yes, he's recovering from an injury. But if that Missouri team is going to make a splash, and they were a roundabout ranked team last season, they should be able to move on and keep going from there. If he has the season I think he can have, he can rush for over 2,000 yards next season in an SEC context. We're not talking about the Mountain West. We're not talking about an independent. If he can rush for 2,000 yards in the SEC and promote them to a college football berth, it's Ahmad Hardy's award to win. No one's really talking about Hardy because of the injury, but he is a special running back, and he's gonna be that first round running back that we see next season. There's always usually we're not really sure. Yeah, the Jeremiah Love thing was talked about because Love was so impressive in the college football playoff before last season because of that. I mean, you guys remember the Penn State run? It's the best run I've seen in the last couple of years. But
Best
Hardy
run.
is
It's
that
the best
type.
run I've ever seen.
Oh my God, the team on his back. I mean, it's insane. But Hardy is that type of running back. He's like a faster Leonard Fournette. That's my comp to him, just because he has the shoulder that Fournette used to have, but he's also quicker than Fournette. Fournette was a little bit of a breakout there. We're
A
talking
little
about a
bit.
guy that had a Heisman, and he doesn't have the size that the previous guy to win. I believe the last running back is Derrick Henry to win the award. And he doesn't have the pure mass that Henry has, but he has the same weight that Henry has, the same mass on the football field. And I'm very high on Ahmad Hardy, obviously. The odds don't reflect it yet, but don't be surprised midway through the season if he's tolling in on those rankings of players to watch for Heisman. And if he can, I think it's a tough ask in the SEC, definitely, but if they can get to 9 wins and he can rush for over 2,000, he's going to be in the say. And maybe he doesn't win it, but he's going to have a say at the end of the season. But that's my dark horse.
Yeah. So for me, I have Mateer as my dark horse, and then Malachi Tony as my super dark horse.
Yeah.
Though that's how I have it, and then I have
Lagway is my dark horse. He's probably got a little better odds than Hardy does.
yeah. So are you good with the Heisman talk? I kind of want to get more into the conference
Let's
side
do
of things.
conferences. Come on.
Yeah, and then I gotta go in like 10 minutes. So
It's going to be a quick one today, guys.
yeah, sorry about that. I still gotta feed myself. So
You guys don't pay the
yeah,
bills, so
don't pay the bills. Not yet. Not yet.
you guys don't do it. Now you
Um, Not yet. So if you want, I could run down each of the conferences and we go back
please
and
do.
forth, or if you just want to go through yours for
If you want to
each.
go through the conferences, we go down. We could
Yeah, I
talk
think
each
I think
conference
that I
from
think
there.
that would be better just because I do think we're gonna have a lot of similarities because I think it's I wouldn't say cut and dry with a lot of the conferences, but
Hmm.
there's definitely a favorite who we think is going to win the conference. So we'll start with the ACC, which we kind of talked about. Miami. I really don't think any team is going to be able to compete with them unless it's like one of those Miami seasons, not like last season. Miami always has they always look good at the like first half of the season. We've seen this for years. Same thing with Florida, like 6-0 or 5-1. We see a lot of excitement out of them. Same thing out of Florida State. A lot of excitement out of them, and then they kind of fall off. I don't think Miami's there. I think last year going to the national championship really solidified them a little bit more, and the ACC is very weak this year.
Yeah.
There's just no one that could really compete with them unless Dabo could pull something out of his ass, or um, even Norville on the hot seat might be able to make a splash at Florida State. Um, but I doubt it. And then SMU as well with Kevin Jennings. I do like that SMU team. I think they're really good. I just don't think they're good enough to really win these. I mean, last year Duke won. That's
Yep.
crazy.
That's what I was talking about a little while ago. They were 7-5, but they still won it.
They
It
still
still
won it.
matters. They still won the whole
That's
thing.
crazy. Yeah, the ACC, and one of the teams is going to get in no matter what, just because ESPN is affiliated with the ACC, and they're going to place them in there no matter what. We saw that with Miami this year. Whatever. Same thing with SEC teams, putting Bama in there, who really couldn't compete with anyone. So, um, yeah, no. So we're definitely both favoring Miami in this. It's just like there's not really another team that really compares to them unless they really have a dramatic fall off with
Yeah.
losing like a guy like Mawaga. But
Hmm.
they really only seem to get better. Maybe the D line might have a little difficulty at first just because it is a new group of people. Um, but like secondary is mainly returning, off ball linebackers are returning.
Yeah.
The threats are returning or getting better. Quarterback play should be better. One more running back is returning, and I think he's only going to get better. See what the offensive line does without Moaga, but I really don't think that's going to be an issue. I just don't think there's another team that can really compete with
Yeah.
them skill group for skill group in the ACC. They're going to have like two bad ACC losses for them to really miss it. And one team is going to have like either no ACC losses. Two teams are going to have no ACC losses or at least one just to even be in contention for it. But I don't know. I just don't think Miami's going to fall off like they normally do. And I think you made that
Yeah.
same point earlier. It's just kind of hard to like bet against them at this point when they're minus
Hmm.
when they're
They
minus
they
odds
have
before the
they're the
season
odds-on
even starts.
favorite, and not just odds-on, but everyone's picking Miami. They have an insane offensive group. They might have the best group of skill players in college football. So I don't need to talk about Miami too much because I think you said all I'd really want to say. I will say that my sleeper for the ACC and the team that if I had to pick a team that's not really being talked about, my sleeper is Virginia Tech. We've talked about them a little bit, but they've done an overhaul. I think James Franklin has become underrated in college football, despite the fact that he had multiple Penn State teams go to the college football playoff. He's an extremely he's the reason why Penn State was able to come back from their postseason suspension from 12, 13 years ago. We all remember that, how Penn State was in the depths of hell. I don't even know what to call it. Like they were banned from everything. And now to bring in James Franklin, an extremely capable quarterback in Ethan Grunkmeyer, who I think can
Gronk.
be. I like Grunk a lot, and yes, like I'm not going to pick them over Miami. No, Miami's my pick. But if there's a team,
I think they're 1 year removed. Like I think
yeah,
next
that's
year
fair.
we could start talking about them as being not necessarily favorites, but being more in contention.
Yeah,
This year, I think it's going to be a year of them getting their feet wet, seeing high end ACC play, or not even high end, just seeing like that ACC change of pace. I think we're kind of expecting like a 9-10 win season out of them. At least that's what I have in my head. I mean, maybe a loss here and there,
I don't know. Do you think
depending on who
SMU
they
even has
play.
a chance? Like
I do,
SMU is probably the second
I
best
do,
team, and I like Kevin Jennings. I do like Jennings, but
I think SMU is one of the teams that could get there. It's just that they have a lot more inexperience than a lot of other teams in that conference. Like Florida State has more experience, Clemson has more experience. I could see a revival year out of Clemson. I mean, maybe we see something out of it, but yeah, honestly, I guess my team would be Clemson to try to really compete and contend
that's crazy.
this year.
SMU opened a new recovery center for their players, and they named it the Kevin Jennings Recovery Center. That's so stupid. He's still there. It's ridiculous. I know they're trying to prop him up for Heisman this year because this is the season. If anyone's going to do it, he's actually a good dark horse, a very dark horse. Let's be honest here, but that is so funky to name a new thing after a current player. That would be so illegal 5 years ago. Not even like it would be unheard of. It would be just plain illegal. Like wow, college football does change quickly, but
Oh yeah. Let's move into the Big Ten.
I think that's insane. Genuinely, you
I
want to
think
talk Big Ten?
yeah, I think the Big Ten's really a three horse race.
Yep.
I'm leading Oregon just
Yep.
because of what they were able to do in the portal. I think they're going to come off pissed next season. Just because of how last season ended, with them losing so badly to Indiana. Like, not even, it wasn't even a game. I remember watching it and just being like, this is not an Oregon team I've ever seen before. Just looking out of place on the field, especially under Dan Lanning. Um, Dante Moore again has really good odds just because of how good that team is and how good of a player he is as well. Not knocking him at all. Like I do think very highly of Dante Moore, but and I think Indiana is going to have a say. I think I could expect a 10-2 season out of them. Just because I think people are going to be hunting them a bit more than they did last year. I really don't think anyone thought of Indiana as a team that could make the playoffs until first the Illinois game when they beat them 63-10, and Illinois
Stacked
was ranked ahead
ass.
of them.
Stacked ass.
And then they beat Oregon in Eugene by 10, which was it wasn't like a dominant win, but it was still like an impressive win on the road against, I think at that point, maybe the number one, number two team in the country.
Mm-hmm. Just
So
can
I
they repeat the perfect season? That I just don't think so. And
yeah,
like you
uh,
said, there's going to be headhunters now. They're not the underdog story that everyone loves. They're the returning champs. I mean,
yeah.
I don't, and I think they're very strong, but they would be my three. I'd have
The,
Oregon one. I'm very high on Dan Lanning. I think that offense is extremely impressive. Their running back room, Davidson's super. He really is super. Obviously, we're super high on Dante Moore. Um, I would have Ohio State at two, and I think they have just as much of a say as Oregon
yeah.
does. We know how
I think
impressive
it's
Ohio
more.
State
I think it's
is.
like a closer like 1A scenario than anything
Yeah,
else there. I really just think it depends how. I don't know if they play each other this year. I didn't check their schedule, but
I
um,
believe they do. I don't know. It just feels like the perfect storm for Oregon this year. Like after all this time, after all the years and years and I talked about this a little bit when you were in the bathroom, but ever since the Mariota days, ever since the Herbert days, the Knicks days, it really has felt like they're so due. And Lanning is, I believe, the final piece to them achieving that. I think the culture is so impressive at Oregon. I love
yeah.
his story. I love the way he runs that team. It feels like the perfect storm might be brewing for them, and to get more back, a guy that could have been the number two pick in the draft this year, the number one pick even.
Yeah,
I know certain teams must have had him over Mendoza. I might have even had him over Mendoza.
yeah. The reason,
So
like another reason, I just looked about their schedules. I have Oregon over Ohio State just because I think their schedule is a bit easier and a bit more spread out. I think they do have some tough matchups, especially out of conference matchups, but Ohio State has one of the worst stretches I've seen in college football in a long time. They play Texas week two, and then they have two MAC teams up like week one and then week three. But they have to go to Illinois. I meant they have to go to Iowa, and then they have Maryland at home, which should be a pretty simple game. Then they go at Indiana, at USC, or Oregon at home, then Northwestern, who is honestly up and coming a bit,
They got to go to
at
Indiana.
Nebraska, and then they
They
play
got
the game.
they got the two
So
they got these two teams. They got the game. I mean, this is a ridiculous schedule. USC we haven't even spoke about today, but USC is
they are
comes
my
for
dark.
blood.
They're going to be my dark horse to win
Yeah,
the Big Ten this year. Just because of I think I do like Jordan Maava. I do think pretty highly of him, but like I really think it's a three horse race. I mean, maybe we have a dark horse
yeah.
come in out of nowhere, but yeah.
I'm so sorry. I have Stoneybrook parking
At least the
reminded.
USC
Use your
schedule is
ID.
obviously a
What?
lot
Stoneybrook
softer.
needs your ID.
Where Oregon's probably their
Can
toughest game,
you take it time
and
out?
after that, they have Oregon and Ohio State. If they can get lucky and split one of those games, they might have an 11-1 season, which would be. They've been creeping towards. They've been creeping, and they went from pretty bad, only kind of bad. And this last season, they were okay. They were pretty good, and this does feel like the year where things could really change. And obviously, you said Mayava. I think he's even a definitely a sleeper for Heisman, and not somebody that is really being talked about. And this USC team's kind of been forgotten about, which is interesting in such a tight conference. It makes sense why they've been put to the side, but they're the four. I mean, if no matter how high you are in Penn State, they just don't have the roster coming back. And I think it's going to be a little bit of a learning year with a new coach and a new quarterback and a new running back. And I just don't see Penn State being able to make the bridge over from such a shit dumpster fire of a season. I don't think they're going to be able to even contend for a Big Ten championship this year. It's too much. It's too much turnover. There's just no. I don't see it. It would have to be a miracle season for Penn State to even have a say. Washington's okay. Um, Wisconsin, I don't really think has a say. Maryland's not very good. Um, yeah, like I've talked about, I think the top four teams are the big guys that we talked about. I think USC is that four team, and don't be surprised if because of how tough the schedules are for those three teams, if USC is able to beat Oregon or Ohio State, is able to flip one of those games, they might be sitting in the Big Ten championship come the end of the season, and that's surprising. But based on the schedule and based on really our season outlook and how high I am on USC, how they've been brewing towards, being back to a
No, yeah,
championship
we don't
type
want to
of
lose the
roster.
original.
I do think that
Thanks.
they're going to have a say. But yes, so that's the Big Ten. I think that's kind of where we're at.
All right, I have to get moving, so you could just go quickly through the
All
next
right, let's do
two.
these last two, and we can do our outright of the rest of the league. So whoever's
And
your
these are kind
favorite.
of the ones I want to talk about a bit more. I'll go Big 12 next, just because I think it's going to be. I really don't have anyone who's going that I'm really nervous about. I don't think Texas. I think it's really between Texas Tech and BYU. I'm leaning BYU. BYU is my favorite for the Big 12 this year, just because Texas Tech, with the Sorsby issue, that was 5 million. Even if it, I'm not 100% what happened with that $5 million. Maybe they got it back. Still, it's 5 million they could have spent elsewhere on a different quarterback or a different player, or just either spread it out to multiple guys or do something with it. BYU looks really good. They looked really good last year. Their only two losses were to Texas Tech. They lost earlier in the season, then they lost in the conference championship. I think 1 year with Bear back at quarterback is going to really help. Not that I think he's really going to be anything special in the NFL, but I really have BYU winning the whole thing. And then Utah lost their coach, Kansas State lost their coach. They brought in new guys. Maybe they can help and make splashes. But I think, if anything, I think Arizona, if they're going to be my dark horse this year.
Okay.
Noah Faiafa or Faida, whatever his name is. He was talked about as one of the best quarterbacks in college football a couple of years ago. And we really haven't seen that splash or that step from him.
I do like the Arizona roster, but you kind of hit the nail on the head with my feeling about obviously the two top teams in the conference. I don't think anyone really has a say besides BYU or Texas Tech. We'll see what happens with the quarterback situation at Texas Tech. I think that's really their X factor, their actual question of how the season's going to go. But I feel about the same. And I think they're probably a season out, similar to Virginia Tech. But my dark horse is Oklahoma State. They could go worse to first, which we haven't seen in a while, but I absolutely love their offense. I think Mestamaker is one of the best college quarterbacks. He has say to be a first round quarterback next year, if not a top 10 quarterback, if things go his way. Obviously, they flip. They're basically they're the North Texas Mean Green. That they're very similar. But I like Wyatt Young coming in from North Texas as well. He went for 1,300 yards last season with Mestamaker. I also like they have a transfer wide receiver from uh, Wake Forest. He had about 1,000 all-purpose yards last season. Chris Barnes. He's a little dude, but he is ridiculously shifty, and I really do like Young and Barnes catching passes from Estemaker for this year. It's a it's such a revitalized Oklahoma State team that was so bad last season, and they can only go up from here. And I do think if it's the perfect storm, they could be a contender in an interesting Big 12 because. Yes, we have our two favorites, but we're not super, super confident that those are top 10 teams. They're not top 5 teams. So I do think, and also they brought in Io Idei from James Madison, a very strong running back in the Sun Belt last season. So I'm very high on their offensive group coming in. And I think they could make a splash. I think they could make surprise a lot of people in the Big 12 race.
Okay, and then we'll move into the SEC. This is the toughest one in my opinion, just because there is a lot of different routes that could happen, a lot of different avenues. A lot of people are high on Texas this year, but Georgia's Georgia.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all I gotta say. Georgia is going to be Georgia no matter what. They're returning a lot of players. They didn't have a lot of people get drafted this year like they normally do, and they were at one point they probably were at one point the number one team in the country, but we could easily see that again this year. Georgia's just different from everyone else at this point. They are the Alabama. They are the team that is being
It's Georgia.
headhunted every single year, and they're still winning with subpar quarterback play. And that's like one of the biggest things. I mean, Texas does have a say this year more than most other teams just because of how good Texas is this year. But I could really see like a team that really just kind of could catch lightning at some point and really make a splash this year is going to be LSU. There is a
Yep.
lot of excitement in LSU this year with Sam Levitt, with Lane Kiffin, and Lane Kiffin is a winning coach. He's turned around Ole Miss, who was not a very strong program,
Yeah.
and brought them to the college football playoff last year. Has made statements year in and year out of being a top 10 team at some point every single season, or even finishing like at 12 or something along those lines, just being one of those higher end SEC teams. And even like him leaving, and
Yeah.
we still think Ole Miss is going to be a very good team next year, and we could see them
Whether you like
make a
Kiffin or
run.
not, he's a winner. He goes and wins wherever he is, he wins. Despite if you like him off the field, despite if you like him on the field, I'm high on them. Obviously, Levitt has been a producer. We've seen him in Arizona State be a Heisman type of candidate. He is high on the list this year. I do like Trades Green at tight end. I'm very high on him. I do think he's probably going to be their number one pass catcher next season. I'm high on the transfer tackle Seaton. I do think that matters
Yeah,
to get
Jordan
some
Seaton.
protection for. We I think we talked about him in our transfer
We
episode,
did.
but
Yeah,
high on him.
he
Jace
was one of
Brown
the
is going to
he
be
was one
pretty
of the few
nice.
5-star tackles to come out
Hmm.
in a long time.
Yeah, so I think LSU could pop. Georgia would be my pick. I don't think Gunnar Stockton is horrible. I just don't. And I think Kirby is so good
Yeah.
at year in and year out quality and bringing in new guys to replace old. They haven't had too much roster turnover either. They should be the champ.
Honestly, it was just
But
Zachariah Branch and Austin Delp
yeah,
this year.
I
And
like Branch, but Branch is not.
those guys are
He's
replaceable. Those
he's not
guys
a
are
Julio
replaceable.
Jones type of prospect. Branch is good, but he's going to sit as like the Browns 4 this year. Like I like Branch, but I'm not ridiculous.
He's not on the Browns.
Oh, he's with the Falcons. Never mind. My bad.
Yeah, he's probably gonna be there too this year, which I'm very thrilled about.
I like Zacchaeus actually, but we'll talk about that.
We talk about that some other time.
I like
Yeah.
Zacchaeus.
I think it's kind of the London show and the pitch show. I think
Yeah.
it's if and we haven't really spoke about it, but draft Kyle Pitts if Tua's the starting quarterback. If Michael Penix is the quarterback, take Drake London. Do not take Kyle Pitts if Michael Penix is starting. That's just I had to say that.
I
Don't-
would just stay away from the Falcons in general. Just
Not if Tua would be excellent for Kyle Pitts because Tua can make every throw within 30 yards.
But
I think
how
he would
long?
be
How
excellent.
long is Tua going to be on the field? How long is Michael Penix going to be on the field? They're going to be in and out. They're going to be playing
Mhm.
every other week, possibly. And then you just have to be able to start one of your top guys, or you have to bench one of your top guys based on quarterback play. I would just stay away from the Falcons, except for Bijan.
At least they're two lefties, you know. At least you're not going lefty to righty.
Yeah, because that's the issue. Just instead of having maybe a good righty quarterback, just have two pretty.
They could have paid Kirk Cousins again. God, 4 years, 180. Ugh.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
ew.
Did you have a dark horse for the SEC or no?
I'd say Missouri. Missouri's my dark horse, and let's be honest here. I don't think Missouri has a say compared to the top 5 teams. I don't think Alabama is going to be a contender this year. I think the Alabama run is just kind of fizzling. I don't see it, and I'm so high on Hardy that if he is seriously able to put that team on his back, if Diego Pavia could put Vanderbilt on his back, I'm pretty confident in Ahmad Hardy being able to put Missouri on his back. So if the perfect storm happens and he can go for 2,300 yards on the ground next season, the Heisman train is going to be out for Ahmad Hardy. That is my take of this episode. But
Heard.
what do you think? What do you got?
My dark horse was LSU. I just because of how
They're like a
poor they were
tan
last year.
horse. They're like a tan horse. They still went 7-6. They're a tan horse.
Yeah, but 7-6, and then going to what they would have to be 11-1.
It is an
going into
overhaul
that.
though. And they
It was
brought
a
back
complete overhaul.
Ed Ogeron being back with the franchise, with the school. That's underrated of how huge that is.
Yeah,
That is huge for the culture. That is big for recruiting even.
Yeah.
I love Ogeron, obviously. I mean, he won a champ. He's been a stalwart in college football for the last 20-something years. He's in the blind side. I mean, come on. It's Ed Ogeron. Go Tigers. Like, yeah, it's Ed Ogeron.
yeah. No, that's my take on it. I really think it's Georgia's SEC.
Yeah, it's Georgia's SEC.
That's pretty much what I got.
So
so that's all I
non-power
have.
4. Who's your pick? Non-power 4.
When we talk about non-power 4 next time, I'm going to be late for work. So
Hey, kid, just who's your favorite? Who's your pick right now?
right now, non-power 4, USF.
Yeah, it's USF, isn't it?
Yeah.
No.
Oh wait, no. They lost their quarterback. He went to Auburn.
It still might be USF, genuinely. I think Tulane
I
could
might
go
go-
back.
I might go with the Pac-12 team just because technically they're not they're Power 5, but like technically we're not including them.
We're gonna hear Washington
Um,
State chat. What do we got?
No, I think Boise. I think
Okay.
Boise's going to have a bounce back year next year.
I think Boise has a say. I do think. I don't know. I would love to sit here and pick East Carolina, but it's not them. It's certainly not a MAC school. I am high on Bowling Green this year, actually, but I don't think they'll have a say. They have to have the perfect season. I'm very high on Miami, Ohio as well, actually. But all right, I'll let you get out of here.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. We should have picked a
but-
better time. Happy to get in a little bit though. We just
Yeah.
got just enough today.
Yep,
We talked Heisman
All
for
right.
an hour, so
we
good.
did. All right, well, have a great one. Hope we enjoyed the podcast today, and you're going to throw this in at the end because maybe it'll work. Like and subscribe.
I will not beg you for your likes or subscribes.
Not begging, just telling you.
If you guys would like to like and subscribe, I would say thank you. All right. We will see you guys next Sunday. Thank you for listening, and peace.
Peace.